Long before science could explain it, humans were already fermenting. As far back as 3000 BCE, the ancient Egyptians were baking bread and brewing beer, not because they understood microbiology, but because they noticed it worked. Wild yeast floating in the air would land on grain mixtures, consume the sugars, and produce carbon dioxide and alcohol as a byproduct. The result was leavened bread and fermented drink. There were no controlled temperatures, no sterile equipment, no understanding of microbes whatsoever. Knowledge was passed down by hand and by habit, and if a batch failed, you simply started again. This same accidental process was happening across ancient Mesopotamia, China, and Greece in clay pots, stone jars, and open vessels, producing vinegar, wine, and fermented soy products that became staples of daily life. Fermentation, at this stage, was pure instinct, observed, repeated, but never truly understood.
The turning point came in the 1850s, when Louis Pasteur proved that fermentation was not spontaneous chemistry, it was driven by living microorganisms. For the first time, fermentation became a science. By the mid-20th century, it had become an industry. During World War II, Allied nations mass-produced penicillin in large steel bioreactors, a feat that saved millions of lives and proved that fermentation could be scaled up reliably. Processes became standardized. Temperature, pH, airflow, and microbial strains were all carefully controlled, but monitoring was still entirely human-dependent. Operators collected samples by hand every few hours, sent them to a laboratory, and waited for results before making any adjustments. By the time a problem was detected, a temperature spike, contamination, nutrient depletion, and hours had already been lost. Process development was slow, expensive, and largely trial and error. The science had advanced enormously, but the control was still reactive.
So where does artificial intelligence fit into all of this? Today, AI is not just assisting fermentation, it is actively making decisions within it, real-time, adaptive, and increasingly autonomous. Let us look at 3 examples of exactly how this works in practice. First, Novozymes, one of the world's largest enzyme manufacturers. Novozymes uses machine learning models to predict how specific genetic mutations in microbial strains will affect enzyme yield and stability before a single experiment is run in the lab. What used to require hundreds of physical trials can now be narrowed down computationally, saving months of development time and significant cost. Second, MOA Technology's Albatros platform, which applies AI directly to downstream processing. In traditional chromatography, engineers manually optimize buffer conditions and column loading through repeated adjustment. Albatros replaces that manual process with a model-based AI system that autonomously adjusts these parameters in real time, improving yield consistency and cutting purification time significantly. Third, the combination of Raman spectroscopy with AI-driven chemometric models. Instead of pulling a physical sample from a bioreactor every 4 hours and waiting for lab results, this technology analyzes spectral data continuously and non-invasively. The AI monitors key metabolites, glucose, lactate, glutamine, in real time, and can alert operators or autonomously adjust nutrient feeds within seconds. The benefits of integrating AI into fermentation are measurable and significant. Precision replaces guesswork. When a fermentation parameter begins to drift, AI detects the pattern and intervenes before the threshold is even breached, something no human operator monitoring hourly samples could reliably do. Studies in pharmaceutical fermentation have reported yield improvements of 20 to 50% when AI-assisted feeding strategies replace fixed schedules. Beyond yield, AI shortens batch cycles, reduces material waste, and accelerates process development. Perhaps most powerfully, AI enables scale-up prediction. Models trained on small lab-scale data can forecast how a process will behave in a 10,000-liter industrial bioreactor, dramatically reducing the risk and cost of failed scale-up. But the challenges are equally real and worth being honest about. AI systems demand large volumes of high-quality historical data to function effectively. For smaller biotechnology companies without that data infrastructure, the entry barrier is steep. The upfront capital cost, sensors, data pipelines, AI platforms, is substantial. Then there is the black box problem. When an AI model recommends an unexpected process adjustment, operators often cannot explain why. In a regulated pharmaceutical environment, that lack of interpretability is a serious compliance issue. Regulatory bodies expect validated, explainable decisions, not algorithmic ones that cannot be justified. And finally, AI is only as reliable as its training data. A contamination event or an unusual process condition outside the model's experience may be misclassified entirely, with consequences that compound over hours before anyone realizes. AI in fermentation is not a perfect solution, but it is the most significant leap in process control since Pasteur first looked through a microscope, and it is only getting started.